Hi, I'm Paul. Welcome to Pepe Motorsports. What I want to talk about for a second is this is a 1972 Chevy Nova. I acquired this car by trading another vehicle. It came with a lot of parts, quarter panels, door skins. I want to do this video a little bit different. It'll be probably a 4 or 5 part series, but I want to keep track of about the time that I put in it, the amount of money I've spent on it, including what the car's purchase price was, because I want to build a nice driver for someone, not a frame off restoration that I do on my rotisserie and all that. I'm going to do a basic, kind of a quick build on this car that I'll just cut some corners to show everybody how you can cut some corners, still make a very, very nice drivable car. We're going to do single stage paint on it, and then we'll sand and buff it so it won't be a fortune in paint. This car will come out very nice, and I think when you find out the amount of money that I'll have in it, I'm going to sell it when I'm done because just the project that I'm working on. But I think you'll see that it can be done to have a very, very nice driver and not spend a fortune on a car. Thank you. These are the pictures of the Nova when we first got it. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of take a walk around the car a little bit. You can see down the sides, the car looks like it's rusty, but it's not. The car was extremely rust-free. They had a lot of filler put in around the wheel wells where they tried to blow them out a little bit and put filler in it to make it, put a bigger tire on it, I guess, but they rolled it and they put holes in it. And then the doors, at first I looked at the doors and I thought they were pretty straight. Now you come around the front, someone has already done the suspension on it, did some trick things to the front suspension, is going to build a drag car, I guess, out of it. But you see the doors like I'm talking about, they don't look too bad. They look like they can be straightened. There's a couple of dents in them, so I thought I would just straighten the doors. But when I looked inside, I noticed that what they did was they used the old holes drilled and then pounded out with the puller and the Swiss cheese sticking inside the putty. So I thought I'd just go ahead and put door skins on it. So right here, I'm using the old school cutter that I learned on in the late 60s, probably starting to do body work. That's what we used, was the panel cutter. I still use that to this day rather than a zip strip or disc to cut stuff. I still like doing it this way. It's just the way I still do it. So I'll make a rough cut on this panel. I'll go across and I'll cut it off, and then you'll see what it looks like. And going back to talk about the doors, naturally the door gaps were fine on the car, so the quarter panels, I'm not going to use the whole quarters. The quarters that I have are really nice quarters. They fit into the trunk and the whole deal, but I'm only going to cut them at the edge of the door because, like I said, I'm going to cut quarters on this build. So I'll show you how I'll save a lot of hours worth of time on doing it that way, and it'll still come out very nice. You see, I'm just cutting down the front, just a rough cut, and then it'll leave me a lot to trim, when I'm finished. And it was funny because at first I thought it was a lot of Bondo, but it really isn't. The Bondo was in there because they tried to roll the fenders, and they even rolled the inner fenders to the edge, and they drilled holes in it for some reason I don't understand, and rolled it in. So I ended up putting inner fenders too. You'll see what I did with that. I kind of like shortcut that deal too. But here we go. We're just taking off the initial skim cut, and that's just going to take a little bit of time. But we'll cut right through that. I kind of enjoy doing it this way, actually. It just reminds me of being the kid again. There you go, to cut it all down, and you're done. A little bit, touching it up here and there. I know I should have safety glasses on, but I don't. I guess at my age, I get a little careless sometimes. I shouldn't. There you go. You can see there's not rust in there. It's pretty nice. You can see where they rolled that I don't know why, there's almost like a ½ inch of filler in there where they rolled that over. They kind of ruined it, but that's okay. We'll take care of it. Here I'm just putting some relief cuts in it, and then you'll see what I do. I just pry it down. My initial thought was to try to save that inner fender, but once I started cutting, I thought, let's just put it in there and do it and get it over with. So I'm just cutting it all out. Main thing was on this project, like I said, is just to make a nice driver. Was on the back, you'll see there was a lot of where they used brazing, which kind of was a little bit of a pain because I was trying to get in there, and you know, now I'm gonna have to play around a little bit different than just trying to tack it back in, but it'll come out okay. This had some repair work done on it. It was back in the day we used to braze panels before we had MIG welders, and nobody TIG welded. We used MIG welders and brazing, and they didn't even have this was before the MIG welders actually. So that's where they just brazed panels in, and it worked out okay. There's the back panel I was telling you about. I cut that off there. Right in there, it was all brazed. And it's a shame because it was just hard to get off. You couldn't drill any spot welds off because it was just like a solid, you know, brass across the whole bottom. And that's messy. So all you can basically do is use almost an air chisel, try to get it out of there. And then you'll see where I'll get a torch and I'll heat the brass up and actually peel some of it away. Getting it apart was the main thing. Putting it back together is not a big deal because you can always braze it back in points where you won't see it, and it came out okay. Just cutting it in pieces little by little, trying to get it out of there. Now there's a little panel behind each taillight on each side. There was a little bit of a problem because it rolls in to where the weather strip goes with the trunk. And I didn't want to buy those also because I'm trying to cut corners. So I thought, well, I'll get them out of there and somehow I'll get them, you know, on the table and cut them and braze them and get them out of there. So that's what I did. So I'm trying to save every part that I can and show you how it'll still come out okay. When it was at one time there was repair work done back there, but it was just the tail light panel itself. The actual bottom panel there where the bumper bolts to was not moved at all, so it was never any hard hit. It just must have been a little dent, and then the way they put it in there with the brazing, I just wanted to get it out of there. And here I'm cutting the top of the quarter out, and that's that piece I'm talking about. Because it welds right into where the quarter panel goes, the new quarter panel, and you'll see how I do it. This is all rough cutting, and you know, when you start rough cutting stuff at first, it's always a little bit different. You just got to take your time, and it does take a little bit of a time to do it. That's that panel right in there, and later on you'll see it kind of like bends in. It's like 2 or 3 panels put together. You got to peel it back like an onion, and then once you get it all apart, you can take it on the bench, and you'll see later on I drill it out and cut it out, and then I see right there, you're taking it out. Now it just, you know, it just pretty much pries right out of there. And then you grind that up and you go ahead and put holes in your new panel and you just weld it in, plug weld it. And then you put sealer on it and you're okay. It's not hard work. It's a little bit messy, but it's kind of enjoyable because you get that piece out of there and you replace it. So it looks nice, you know. It's a good feeling when you do it right. Now, see that since it's all spot weld driven, it'll come right out of there. See how nice that peels off? There it is. Now there's the new inner fender weld. Here I'm cutting away, so you'll see how it goes in. Rather than go through all the work of taking it all the way up, since it wasn't rusted out, like I said, I'm cutting corners, so I'm going to splice it in. Just trimming the excess metal off. There it is, fitting it up in there, fitting it up in there. You see, I cut it across the top. Otherwise, I'd have had to dig in there and take all the spot welds out under all that bracing, and there was no rust or anything, so why loosen everything up? I just put it up there, weld it in, and then I'll seam it, and it'll be nice where it meets the new quarter panel. It'll be just perfect. So there, I'm scribing a line. And this saved a lot of time, and when I flip over to the left quarter panel, I even saved a lot more time. I even did it faster. You'll see that in the next upcoming videos. The main thing is I'm trying to save time, and time is money, and I'm trying to get the car done at a very good price. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're just going to go ahead and pull out this back window. Once I get the back window out, then we're going to go ahead and jump on that quarter panel. We'll trim it and cut it right off, and we've got ahead to get the fender well, the inner fender. We'll put that back in, because now that we scribed it on that, a little bit before, now we trimmed it, that'll go back in. So right now we're just going to get this this window out real quick. Okay, what I'm doing right now, I'm doing a vertical cut on the roof, and if you want to know why I did that, it's because I had to cut the part of the roof out around the edge where the glass goes, because it was a little bit messed up, a little bit rotted, a little wee bit on this side, and I didn't want to have to go into the rain gutter and cut all that out, so I just went and cut it straight up vertically instead of horizontally. And when I cut the quarter panel, you'll see I just put a small seam down there, and it saved me all the work and the time it took to cut into that side where the rain gutter would be. So you'll know that's why I did it that way. So as we keep going right now, I'm just going ahead and cutting out that little portion of quarter panel that goes between the back panel and the quarter itself. It's kind of tricky to grind in there. There's a few spot welds I had to grind out, but most of the time I just cut it out of there. So as we go along, like I say, I'm trying to save as much time as I can. And here, while I had the torch ready, I had to clean out a little bit more in the trunk, because while I was getting ready to set the quarter panel on the right side, I also wanted to fit the back panel between the taillights just to get it in. So you'll notice I had to go clean all that out. There was more and more brazing in there, but it's okay. It'll all come out. When it comes out at the end, you'll see it really worked out well. So we'll get that out of the way. It's just messy and stinky, but it has to get done. And that quarter panel is going to be coming off anyway. And that's where I had to cut out all those pieces where it was just brazed and it was a mess. So I'm going all along the whole bottom side of that back panel, right where the rear panel goes in. I just had to keep using a screwdriver and a torch, and every time I would get the brass melted, I would just lift up on that little lip a little bit and just do the best I could, because I have to get that rear tail panel to sit in there just right. So all I can do is clean it up like that, get all the brass out of it, and then I'll grind it down some, and I'll fit it, and then when I'm done, it'll be fine. So that's not going to be an issue, but I'm just showing you. Okay, right now what I'm doing is I'm putting a few sheet metal screws in and clamping that inner fender well, just kind of moving it around, getting it in position so I could weld it in place. Because once I can weld that in place, then I got to put the quarter panel back on, do the final cut on the front of the quarter panel, and you'll see and the sad thing is you have to end up pulling the quarter panel off several times, back and forth to get it to fit right. So it just takes a little bit of time, but we'll get it done. And you can see I'm getting ready right now to go ahead and weld it in place. So once it's welded in place, there it is. It's all welded, plug welded across the top, and we'll be able to start putting the quarter panel back on. And what I'm doing now is I'm tacking the top of the quarter panel, even though it's not cut yet, because there's really no way of putting a screw in there against the B-pillar. So what I'll do is I just do a rough tack at the top, rough tack at the bottom, then I'll clamp it everywhere else, and then I'll be able to go ahead and run a tape line down it, which you'll see in a minute. We'll get that bottom tucked in. Right now I'm welding the bottom a little bit, and I got to put, looks like I'm going to have to put a clamp in there. I apologize from the video. I'm really new to doing this. I want to do a really good job and help everybody out doing projects, so kind of bear with me. And if you have criticism, I'm fine with it. You know, I'm an old timer. I can take criticism. I've been in the car business my whole life, so I can definitely take criticism. And there I'm running a 3/4 inch tape down. I'm just eyeballing it. And what I'll do is when I cut this, I have to cut through 2 panels. I have to cut through the new quarter and also cut the original quarter at the B panel, the B pillar. So you know, I'm trying to decide whether I should cut it that way or I should maybe you know, cut it the other way. But you know, so I'm filming all this myself, so it's kind of hard. I don't have a camera person, so I got to kind of, hate to have my back to you. But we'll get this cut out. And then once we get this cut, then we'll pull the quarter panel off, probably end up doing a little bit more trimming on it. And then we'll be able to put it back on, start the welding process. Right now I'm cutting it. Get to the top a little more trimming. Now we'll be able to, looks like we're getting ready to pull the quarter panel off. One clamp on at the top, and I had to grind those little spots out to get it off, but there we go. Quarter panel's off. Getting ready to trim it up. Okay, this is where I'm going to have to do a little bit more trimming on it. So unfortunately, I'm going to have the door open probably a little bit. I got to get down in the bottom where the quarter panel meets the rocker, and I got to do a little bit of grinding down there to get it to fit a little bit better. And then where you didn't see it in the video, I had to trim the top of the quarter panel a little bit more to get it up in there. So once I get done, you'll see a little bit of grinding going on. I'm sorry, that's, like I said, the door's there. I'm sorry about that, but we did a little bit more grinding there. And you see I threw a little piece of metal out there that was in there. And that's where also I had to tack a little bit to hold that quarter on, so I'm also grinding that out a little bit in there. Then once I get that done, I'm going to go ahead and see, I'm going to fit the panel back on again. So the panel is, now, it's really going to take a little bit of monkeying around, because this time I have to finalize to get it in there to fit perfect so I can begin the welding process. And here's where there's a lot of juggling around, fitting it up there. You got to fit the main thing to do is it has to go perfectly against the B panel, and then also it has to go into the roof line. So once I get it clamped in, I'll keep moving it and bumping it, and I'm a one-man band, so I clamp it, then I bump it, then it seems like you loosen it, it fits there, then it doesn't fit there. I go back and forth, but eventually I'll get it, and then you'll see where I really get a good crisp line to weld it on the B pillar and on the roof rail, and it comes out really good. You'll see here in a second. I'll show you how that works out. There it is. See, it's a good line, real close. It came out really nice and tight there, and it came out in there good, and then right across. You see right there, it's up there, very good, very tight. So that won't take, I'll do a little bit more grinding. After I'll do some more grinding on it, and right here we're welding a little more. I'm going to use the, you can't see a lot of it, but I use the air hose too to keep the welds down, cooling it down a little bit. And then once I get it all welded up, then naturally I have to grind it all out, but you'll find out that it really came a very nice seam. Shouldn't be a problem at all. Very, very little amount of filler just to cover up the little bit of distortion on the metal. There wasn't much because I kept it cool, and around that crown it doesn't move that much. and I tacked it, you know, moved it around, just kept moving it and cooling it down. Keep welding it a little bit at a time. It just takes time, you know, and then I had to jump up to the roof also doing the same thing. I'm not going to, you know, take the time to show all that, but you know how to weld a panel. You just weld it and tack it and cool it down and then grind it all out, and it comes out pretty good. So once we get this all welded up, we'll be able to just grind it out and finish it. We're going to finish up this video on this quarter panel, then we're going to end it there, and then on the next video we'll start on the left side, which you see I even cut a few more corners, you'll see on the left side to speed up the process. But this one came out okay. All right, we're going to take a look at right now on the, you can see that there's not much filler to have to put in it all there. And then at the top, when I welded that gap up, we also ran into where the lead started. So anytime I do this, I go ahead and put a thin filler of fiberglass on top of it. This way, when it grinds it all down, we'll have fiberglass, small amount of filler over it. This way it blends in with the lead. Coming down the door, you'll see that weld, there's basically nothing, there's a little bit of filler. So thank you for watching Pepe Motorsports, the Budget Nova build. And the next one, we're going to start on the left quarter panel. Thank you. Like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much.